Vicki says she is unable to connect to meeting.
Yeah, I don't know. I was totally trying to get it up and running. So,
Can you tell her?
yes,
Yeah.
please.
So just to confirm, I'm trying to direct myself to this light, basically.
Yeah, it'll, yes, but it's, the camera will rotate on you, but just, take your mask off, and really speak up so that it can pick up.
It was funny.
Are we good to go, or?
So just as a reminder for those of us that are in chamber, if you have any phones, to put them on silent. So we can get going. Well, so happy that we are able to be together in the chamber for our council meeting tonight. We'll go ahead and get started. So it's 7:04. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll take a moment of silence to begin with. And then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so you have a pretty full agenda for tonight, so do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Roll call, City Clerk Domingo.
Councilmember Clark.
Councilmember Clark, are you on with us? No.
Reed. Here. Jackson.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Lanu.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Snyder.
Here. So we begin this evening with presentations and recognitions. Our first is a proclamation in memoriam for Irene Gamble. So now I get to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Support.
Awesome. Roll call vote on that, please, City Clerk.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Lanu.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So our first is a proclamation in memoriam for Irene Evans Gamble. Whereas Irene Gamble was born in Yazoo County, Mississippi. Her family moved to Michigan in 1950. Married in October 1960, and a mother to natural children and children in the community. And whereas Irene Gamble attended University Barber College and graduated in 1971. She pursued her career providing services with Star Commonwealth, Funeral Homes, Patterson House of Styles, and Jail Services. And whereas Irene Gamble began her business on March 12, 1991, as a humble owner of Irene Superior Unisex Salon. She began her purpose on the corner of Superior and West Mulberry in the downtown district. Each day of service, she would share respect, counseling, and spiritual guidance. She was a gift to the men, women, and children who sat in her chair because of her warm, loving heart and tender, inspiring words. And whereas Irene Gamble was a longstanding member of Bethel Baptist Church, where she attended for over 60 years. As a dedicated choir member and a devotee of the food service preparation, she would modestly assist with support continuously. And whereas Irene Gamble began a personal prison ministry and continued her services over 20 years. She selflessly and privately sent monetary gifts, letters, and cards to prisoners, providing words of inspiration to men and women who some she knew personally and others she only knew by her gifts of comfort that she provided. And whereas after 50 years of service as an entrepreneur, Irene has worked in the community in many capacities. Throughout her lifetime in Albion, she demonstrated a wealth of kindness to our community and celebrated festivities by frequent donations. She received recognition on numerous occasions by several organizations in the community and was most recently celebrated for Albion's Black-owned business in the Albion Pleiad. She manifested an instrument of success by her legacy of life, and whereas on behalf of the citizens of Albion, we express our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation for Irene Gamble's invaluable service to the city of Albion and our residents. Now therefore, City Manager Haley Snyder, joined by Mayor Victoria Snyder, Mayor Pro Tem Nora Jackson, Council members Vicki Clark, Glenn Reed, Marcola Lawler, Linda Lanou, and Shane Williamson, and city staff do hereby extend our deepest sympathies and condolences to the family and loved ones of Irene Gamble. Our next is Rod Auton, who is here to present for the Albion Healthcare Alliance.
Any place you want me to stand?
Sorry, you can stand right there at the podium.
Ah, very good, thank you.
Councilmember Reed, if you would like, you can, since Councilmember Clark's not here, Ms. Reed, if you want to slide down to the middle seat, so that we can just make sure that
Can I take this one? Beautiful. I teach at Western part-time and with a mask on, by the end of the class, I'm exhausted. Mayor, council members, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight, have an opportunity to talk about the Albion Healthcare Alliance and just say a few things about the program and what we do. And like I said, it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you tonight. The Albion Healthcare Alliance has been around for over 17 years. It started as a result of the closing of the hospital, Troy Hospital, and local leaders at that time wanting to make sure that as healthcare needs changed in the community, there was a body that would be able to support those ongoing changes and needs. And from that, the Albion Healthcare Alliance was started in 2003. From the genesis of that until now, it's evolved in a number of ways, including the acquisition of the Cram building, which is on the river, 115 Marketplace. And there we own and manage that building. I'm the administrator of the program and spend day-to-day managing the building there. There we actually have several medical services on site, including Grace Health Dental. We have Summit Point Mental Health Services. Auton provides audiology services there. Dr. Mihalka has a private practice there, a unique private practice there for the community. And we're in the process now of bringing eye care services as well into Albion through a couple of local physicians, both optometry and ophthalmology. They'll be starting services in April. So we're excited about doing that. And so to go back just a little bit then, with that, the mission of the Albion Healthcare Alliance has always been, again, to, it's a community-based, not-for-profit organization, really focusing on the healthcare needs of the community. Part of how we do that is through working with local partners, identifying unmet needs in the community, healthcare needs, and from that, developing collaborative efforts to meet those needs. As an example, in 2016, we did a needs assessment, the local needs assessment. Through that, identified some unmet needs, especially services, audiology, eye care services, and so on. From that, then we were able to collaborate with partners in the area and bring those services into Albion for local residents. So that's certainly part of what we do, is making sure that Albion residents have very basic but essential services local and don't have to travel distances to get those services. So the Cram building houses those services. And with that, we also have on site two of staff members of mine who are community navigators, community health workers. And their day in and day out looks like talking with local residents who come by pre-COVID because they have a need. They need resources. They need to have some other types of services in the community. And our community navigators meet with them and work with them, both in terms of assessing their needs, but also helping to go through the community to find those resources, including insurances and that type of thing. And we work collaboratively with the providers in the building. So not only are we serving the local community in terms of residents, but we're also working collaboratively with the providers in the building to help meet the needs of their patients as well. And so that's what we do from the perspective of the building and working with the providers who provide care to the community. Additionally, though, we really are about, again, addressing healthcare needs in the community. And so a couple of the programs and activities that we do, and we've done now for years, you may have heard a few of them. Healthy Babies Day, which is an annual event. Had to do it drive-through during COVID, but we did Healthy Babies Day again, addressing maternal health needs in the community. We also convene a program called Health and Safety Expo. And again, these are both collaborations with community partners to address needs in the community. And so those have been annual events that we do. Additionally, this year we have the opportunity to work collaboratively with providers, content experts in the community that include Summit Point, Grace Health, Oak Lawn, and just last week we convened a half-day symposium for community faith leaders to provide them information on mental health resources, because we know how drastically hard COVID-19 has been on residents and on people in the community. So one of the things that we're hearing from, and we work closely with the Albion Ministerial Association, is knowing how leaders really just need more resources in how to help their congregation members. And so we convened this symposium last week with content experts, had very positive response from that. And from that, we'll build other programs and ways of working closely with faith leaders in the community to support congregation members in mental health services. The only other thing I want to highlight, because I'm sensitive to time, so I'll get the full schedule here, is we're also working closely with the food security work group here locally. As many of you may know, we're in the process of transitioning the food hub from where it was at to now going on to the Albion College campus. And so I work with the food security work group in terms of really trying to not only manage that transition, but also build a much larger system of addressing food security in the community. And so it goes beyond food distribution, but really goes on to empowerment, education, training, et cetera. And so we're excited about that because it really is a collaborative effort between a number of organizations. And now we're excited to have Albion College involved as well. So, and then finally, one of the things that we've been really focused on, especially in the last few months, is that the Albion Healthcare Alliance has taken the lead on the COVID-19 response, both on the front end with the testing. So we've been involved in providing services actually at Washington Gardner. One of our community navigators goes there 3 days a week, is available to residents who come through for testing to provide navigation services for them. So one of our navigators is working there at Washington Gardner 3 days a week to do that. And then we've also taken the lead on a local work group. Of course, very familiar faces here in terms of others who are involved with the work group, but it again is a collaborative effort to really get more and more residents in the community vaccinated. We know that vaccination is the best response to addressing the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we're working very diligently in terms of, as an example, this Saturday, the health department received a grant from the state of Michigan to focus a clinic, a vaccination clinic on vulnerable populations in Calhoun County. Albion, and so it's based on geography, and there are 2 neighborhoods in Albion that fall into this category of vulnerable population. And so we've developed our work group, we've developed a group of volunteers who have agreed to go out and canvass in these 2 neighborhoods to, again, encourage residents to get the vaccination, both who qualify the 50 and older age group for the Saturday vaccination clinic, but also taking the names of those under 50 years old who want the vaccine, so that again, we can be proactive as clinics develop and that age goes down. We have the ability to get them signed up, or we'll have them signed up if they can't get them scheduled for vaccinations at that time. So we're really taking a very strong effort in terms of working collaboratively with our work group to promote vaccination in the community for the pandemic. So that's all I have that I wanted to present this short amount of time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
So Rod, I know that you had mentioned having a need for volunteers.
Yes.
Does the Healthcare Alliance have a website where folks can go to if they want to sign up to be a volunteer, or what would be the best method?
The best method actually is to go onto our Facebook page.
Okay.
Our navigators' phone numbers are there. So Vicki and Elfrida are our navigators. And they have been coordinating a lot. They've been working with the health department, Carewell Services, and others to work on the waiting list for the COVID vaccinations. They're very involved with this, but once we go through there, then we can we have some of our board members are very involved in, again, working with creating the volunteer list. Vivian Davis is one of them, but we're working very diligently to create the volunteer list, both on the vaccination clinic days and working there. But like I said, right now, we have, yesterday we had our first meeting training for the volunteers, and we had 17 community members show up to, again, agree to canvass in these 2 neighborhoods to sign folks up for the vaccination clinic. So we have those specific 2 needs right now as far as the vaccination clinic next week, so that's immediate. But ongoing, we want to continue to provide support in and around Albion for clinics. Again, our work group is helping and working with the health department to create more micro or mini clinics in Albion for the vaccination.
And so the vaccine clinic that's going to be held this coming Saturday, the 20th, what's the demographic?
Again, because so what happened, again, I'll be very brief here. The grant that was written was for 1,500 doses of the vaccine. It's the Moderna vaccination. And 1,000 of them went to Battle Creek in that area, 500 went to Albion in our area. So we have 500 doses. The clinic is going to be set up for 500 people. And so, so it'll be from 8 a.m. in the morning until 4:15 in the afternoon. 15 to 17 people going in every 15 minutes. And so I've participated in a number of clinics around the county, and they're very efficient. So lots of great volunteers, et cetera. And so next Saturday then, 50 and older age group. And again, 8 to 15, feel free to have local residents, if they want to go on our Facebook page, contact one of our navigators, and then we can make sure that we connect them on the volunteer side, as well as residents who need vaccination. So we want to make sure that we're doing both volunteer and folks who need vaccination.
Any other questions, Mr. Auton, while we have them in front of us? Councilman Wilson?
Sure, could you maybe explain why we, I love that you guys received the grant to the vulnerable populations. Could you explain why a grant needed to fund that versus did the county not have money to do this? Like, was there a priority situation?
Well, so as we know, in terms of looking at the rollout of vaccination, it's been a fairly neutral type of way of rolling it out. You put your name on the waiting list, and that waiting list for Calhoun County went up to 7,000 people. And basically, you were called according to where you were on the list. That wasn't effectively addressing a couple things. First of all, vulnerable populations who have certain issues, whether getting information, transportation could be an issue, and so on. So, and again, this is throughout the state. So what the state said was, then let's offer communities this type of grant where it can, instead of doing this normal way of putting people on the list and serving them that way, let's target populations that we know are at-risk populations and do it that way as well. And in a fair way in terms of how that's rolled out. So Calhoun County was one of the recipients, but there were lots of counties that received grant funding. Does that answer your question?
Councilman Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Auton, for all of this information. It's very helpful. I am curious, you mentioned the half-day symposium for families, and I was just curious if that is information that will be accessible in the future and things that community members would be able to utilize as well.
Sure. So when we originated this event, it was the Albion Healthcare Alliance sitting down with the Albion Industrial Association and really just listening to what the needs were of faith leaders. With that, the idea was, because there have been other types of events for the community addressing mental health, we felt like we could target faith leaders because so oftentimes they get calls from congregation members any time of the day and so on. With this though, we are making available the documents that came from that as far as presentations and so on, and we'll share those on our website as well. So I appreciate your question there, because we're just coming off of it from Friday, so we're still kind of trying to debrief on what we need to do next. So that's a great way to be thinking about it, so in terms of how do we make it available to the larger public.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Auton? All right, well, we thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.
Like you said, the information is valuable for our community. So yeah, we love having that information in front of us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And next we should have Amy Deprez presenting on recreational marijuana.
Okay, I was rejoining, so are you ready for me?
We can hear you.
Okay, let me just share my screen and we'll get started. Don't have the right. Can the host share the screen?
I'm able to see you, Amy.
Okay, I'm just getting the screen up. Give me 1 second. There. Hopefully you can now see the screen and not all the other notes. So good afternoon, or good evening. I did not realize you were meeting in person already, so I apologize for not coming to Albion to do this. But I was asked to give you a presentation on recreational marijuana, particularly the provisioning aspect of it. So I've got a presentation prepared. I want to go through it. And then I also have some other options for you that I'll discuss at the end. So just a reminder that the legislation passed by the voters in 2018 with 56% saying yes. Retail sales began in December of 2019. The sales numbers have been growing, about 450 million in recreational products for the past 12 months. Experts are saying we're not even close to market saturation. If you have been following this industry at all, you'll know that some of the other states eventually got to market saturation, and the price of the product ended up coming down, and they had some, runoff of that. So MSU released a report. This is probably one of the only reports I've seen that is based on the industry. So it's called the Market for Economic Impact of Adult Use Recreational Marijuana Industry in Michigan. That report estimates the sales to be about 3 billion or 7.8 if you look at total economic impact, and employment to be about 13,500. Tax revenue is just shy of 500 million. And that is split between excise tax at just about 300 million and sales tax at just under 200 million. As a reminder, the excise tax is distributed. The voter mandated 20 million for the first 2 years to go towards research. So that gets taken off the top. And then the breakdown is as follows. So the 15% for cities, townships, and villages are based on those cities, townships, and villages that allow marijuana, the recreational provisioning, and micro businesses. So depending on how many you have in your community, that 15% is prorated out by that. Counties get a share just by having them in the community, and then school aid fund gets some, and then our roads and bridges get some too. So the report went on to talk about the economic impact and understanding what is truly new. And this comes in, is good for any industry. I mean, if somebody was going to buy a case of beer and instead bought a marijuana product, that's not considered a new transaction because it replaced a transaction that would have already happened. So the same with any other industry. Looking at that and deciding what is new is key. So this report took an alternative measure and it looked at the economic contribution analysis. So it looks at direct and secondary effects of the dollars recirculating within the community. So consumers purchase the product from the retailer, that causes the retailer to restock. They have to purchase services from other inputs. They have to hire people to sell that product. The shareholders get a piece. They pay taxes and they pay licensing. So as long as those dollars recirculate within the community, that's what this economic contribution analysis looks at. So the supply chain. The supply chain for the recreational side is still building out. Michigan doesn't really have a standalone wholesale market yet. That will probably occur at some point. But right now, that piece of it is being handled by the processors and the retailers working directly. So this map shows you all of the retail locations that do recreational marijuana within an hour commute. And then I added to that the tax payment for the municipality. So you can see Albion is starred in the middle. Jackson received about 168,000. And that actually was Leone Township, where theirs are located. Lansing got about 280, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, and even Pulaski Township got 28,000, and so did Parma Township. I had to think of the other P. So the minimum amount, if they only had one entity in their community, was the 28,000, and that's the recent data that was just released. And I know all of you saw that. I saw that it circulated. So looking at what's the economic benefits of this industry, and particularly provisioning, they're well-paying jobs. So for every job, Albion would get income tax, whether it's 1% or 0.5%, depends on residency. But the average pay for dispensary jobs is about $21 an hour. So pretty reasonable pay. The low is at 16,000, the high at 79. And then the majority of the Michigan jobs fall between that 25 and 47. In addition to well-paying jobs and that income tax revenue for the community, there's redevelopment and reuse of properties. So more property tax, getting some of these unused properties back onto the tax rolls, and definitely increased foot traffic. This is a chart that just shows you what kind of foot traffic these entities bring in. So it just captures what on average they would see in a day. Pretty interesting, the numbers that can be triggered from this. So this one shows the growth. You can see that the states that are more established are still getting significant growth numbers, but Michigan continues to experience triple-digit growth, and they had 146% in growth over the last period. So this slide is really about the recreational marijuana options will be increasing. Some new requirements just recently passed. So in March of 2021, the MRA is eliminating the requirement that you have to be a recreational marijuana, that you have to be a medical marijuana license holder in order to be a recreational marijuana applicant. So that will make it more available to others to enter into this market. And they believe with this change, we'll see a $1.5 billion sales increase by September of this year. We'll also see increased state revenue by almost 240 million. Rural areas are getting more access, and that's thanks to there's many different improved delivery options. Thus, it's reducing the illegal market products. So in consideration for you, and when looking at local policy and whether Albion should allow recreational marijuana provisioning, the first one is the voters have spoken. And the second piece is you look at it the same as any other industry, whether it's retail service, food service, or other amenity. You'd look at what it brings to the community. I think the piece that's most resonates with me is that people are going to purchase. And a few slides ago, we talked about that recirculating of the money until the dollars vacate the community. So if people are going to purchase, they're going to purchase in Albion or out of Albion. Once those dollars move out of Albion, they're going to stop recirculating. We're going to stop seeing that economic input, that benefit. So when we shift purchases outside, we have the potential of lost reinvestment into the community. We've also talked about sales leakage in other industries, particularly grocery stores. We don't have as many options, so people tend to do their grocery shopping in other communities. And while they're doing that, they spend other monies there. So sales leakage and leakage of other industries would be considered. And then really, do you want the dollars to recirculate within your community? I don't want to make a recommendation or give even my opinion on this. This is all facts that I pulled together. And what I really wanted to do was give you a third-party perspective. We were a little late trying to get anyone to pony up for that, but we have found a couple individuals that have no relationship to Albion that would be happy, especially in the world of virtual meetings, to join the council for a study session if that's something that you're interested in. Trying to stop sharing, sorry. There we go. So if it is something that you're interested in, I'd be happy to work with City Manager Snyder to get something scheduled. I did touch base with two of the three that had indicated interest, and they would have some availability the following week. So if that's something that you're open to and you want to just have kind of a discussion, an informal discussion with them and be able to ask questions, that's an option. One is a lawyer, and then the other two are from municipalities that have gone through this process already and have got some good data. One of those individuals has a law enforcement background, so he's able to talk about how it's affected their community. Their community didn't really see a rise in crime or issues related to this. Their drug issues are more related to meth, and you know, I think Chief Kip or somebody else locally could talk to what Albion's crime issues are related to. But that might be an option that you're interested in having done. So if you give me the thumbs up, I'll go ahead and work on that. But with that, I'm free to answer any of your questions if I can.
Do I have any questions for Amy at this time from council? Councilwoman Miller?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Do you have like just a general idea of how much foot traffic is there right now? Do you know how much foot traffic is there right now at the one we have right now in Albion?
No, and that is a medical one, so I didn't think it was pertinent to this conversation. I can definitely reach out to them and see if I can get that information, but no, I don't have an idea.
Councilmember Lawler, if I may, I know the owner from Sunny's, they have contacted the city and they are turning away customers who are interested in the recreational. So they are seeing an increase, but they are obviously having to turn away because it is only medicinal.
I was just, Mr. Perez, so on the map, under retail locations where it has the amount of money around those varying areas, and I see that Albion is kind of started there in the middle. Had we allowed retail sales for the places that are medical, I mean, we could be seeing anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 in payments, correct? If just the medical places that are local were able to do recreational, correct?
Well, the way I understand it is it's only for the provisioning of micro businesses. So provided, I mean, if we didn't have medical, we just have recreational, yes, we would have gotten a piece of that because we've got one provisioning center. In the beginning, I believe with the medical marijuana, it was proportionate to all your licenses. That's not the case with recreational. So you have to have that sales piece in order to capture any of that excise tax.
You have to have the recreational sales. And then my other thing is, this is money that's going to be annual, correct? These payments will come annually to municipalities.
Yes.
So it's safe to say that Jackson, if nothing changes between now and 2022, next year about the same time could be receiving another $168,000, correct?
Correct. And just to be clear, that's Leone Township.
Leone Township, sorry. The map is kind of. And then my other question is, there's really not a lot of strings attached to this money sorry, I can take my mask off when I'm talking. So I hope that's better. There aren't any strings attached to this money other than the fact that you have to allow for the provisioning and retail sales of marijuana. So this money doesn't come to the city and say, you have to spend it on staffing or you have to spend it on infrastructure. This is wherever you decide you need it the most. For example, council did say, we would like to spend our revenues from from this particular provision on parks and infrastructure upgrades, or we could put it towards things in the city for public safety or for or for other departments, correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding. That's a great question that could be posed to the, to the panel of experts if we go that route. Because the lawyer is very involved with the legislation. So, and would more than likely even know some of the what's in the future considerations of legislation. So I think that would be a good option for you to talk to him about that. But yeah, and obviously with the differences in amounts, 28,000 is the minimum for I'm going to say doing nothing, because it really is. If you pass the ordinance, you're passing it because that's what you decided to do. So that 28,000 is coming into the community. That's nothing to sneeze at. But if these communities that are getting multiple ones, I mean, you can do lots of things with that kind of cash on an annual basis, and it could be the difference between, getting a new housing development or getting some roads done or whatever.
And then I guess lastly, again, you've reminded me that you've offered up a study session. I hope that we're going to take you up on that. So we can talk more about this, but this money will come in. And then with the licensing of, when you do these ordinances, you decide how many licenses you want to allow and where they can be. There's lots of structure the city can put in place around recreational sales, correct? So, for example, I hear a concern, I don't want downtown to just be a bunch of recreational marijuana sales. So we could say the downtown zone is not zoned for recreational sales, correct? We could say that's more of a different zone in the community, right?
Sure, the same thing you went through with the medical marijuana, you can do with recreational. Albion's geographic location or capacity limits it to an extent too. So, there's lots of creative approaches to still get the benefit. Definitely that you can look at. And I think those would be good questions and discussion for the two experts that have more municipality experience.
And then in 2019, I believe, it was either, early 2020 or the end of 2019, Albion was named as one of the, there were several locations around the state as priority zones for businesses because of the, policing or the enforcement of marijuana laws. Is that still in existence today? Is that preference for local business people or entrepreneurs who would like to participate in the business, but maybe were affected by the enforcement? Are we still a priority zone for the state?
I didn't get involved in that too much. I can't imagine that changed. You're talking about those that had prior convictions and stuff that got, different treatment. Yeah. I can't imagine that that's changed, but because we didn't allow recreational, we've not seen any action from it.
I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
I don't think if anybody is thinking about having this discussion with just the lawyers that want to explain about the positive, we also need to get some people to explain about the negative. And Harry Bonner had invited one in year before that, right before the vote came up about marijuana, and he explained a lot about how it affected people, and especially young people. And I was just reading an article not too long ago about some kids eating some marijuana gummy bears and ended up in the hospital. And I did some research this afternoon on myself, and I know the price varies from place to place. So it's not, if we are not selling ours at the same amount that another person is selling theirs, you're not going to get the kind of money that they get. Now, I heard the gentleman from Sunny say, well, he was talking about the provisioning places right outside of Albion. And he was saying they were making a lot more money than him because he was medical marijuana. But it's going to be that way anyway, because of how many people. And then I was also studying and was reading about people who are moving out of the area that they live in because they are now having recreational marijuana sold in their area to areas who are not selling recreational marijuana. And then it went into the fact about the schools, the kids, even the fact that the children are getting a hold to the cookies and the candies that's made out of marijuana and are eating them and ending up in the hospital, some of them even dead. I mean, if we're gonna talk about one side, let's bring in people from the other side too, because you got them on both sides, and I just would not, I don't think the money means as much as the people, or the life, or the mental stability you got of living someplace, because I tell you, if a lot of the young people get hooked on that, you're gonna meet them, maybe coming in your back door, or standing at your house when you're coming in, some kind of way they're gonna get the money to purchase it if they don't have a job to buy.
Thank you, Amy, unless there's anybody else that has a question for Amy? No. Thanks for being with us tonight, Amy, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so we're on to our public hearing, no, okay. Public comments, Chief Kit, do we have anybody sitting and waiting to, discuss any of you? Nope, okay. And we don't have a closed session.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Mr. Hodgman, I guess,
oh, okay.
but I don't know if that was before or after.
Okay, well, he's on.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council people. I just want to first commend Albion Healthcare Alliance for that which it's doing in Albion and has done since 2003 and is doing collaboratively with the college. I think that's very important, and I support the canvassing and the other activities that Mr. Auton described. To Ms. Deprez or Deprez, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Amy, if you could share that presentation with me or put my email in chat, and would be interested in seeing your slides rather than just my notes from your slides. And finally, and I know you're going into closed session soon, so I won't be there when you come the other way out. I want to say that excited that the American Rescue Act is going to provide the city of Albion more than $825,000 by my staff's computations presented to me. And what I'm especially excited about is that you're not going to have to await state legislative appropriation to get that. As you know, we've had some difficulty in the state legislature in terms of appropriating monies to local governments, especially. And I'm talking about monies that were appropriated by the Congress back in late December that some is still a significant portion, $2 million is still sitting in Washington, D.C. So I'm excited that money is going to come directly from the federal government to the city of Albion. Thanks for letting me participate. Have a great evening.
Thank you for being with us, appreciate it. It looks like you have somebody else.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Evergreen Showers, 805 Valhalla Drive. Talking about this recreational marijuana, it is not a good thing for our town. We don't want to be known as the pot town, the marijuana town, growing it, selling it, medical. We don't want this. You getting about all this money that you're going to be making. You think going to be buying this stuff? Our children, our college kids, even though the age is 21, younger kids will be getting it. Is not good for mindsets and going forth and studies. It's not good. So I'm hoping that you all on that board will not accept this recreational marijuana. I had to go pick up some kids from school because a girl brought some brownies that was laced with the stuff. the kids was acting silly and didn't know how to handle that, know what to do with it. And you're gonna bring this here and force it on our community, our children. Maybe you don't have any children right now, grandchildren that will be smoking it and spending their money and doing all kind of things to get it, stealing. But I got grandkids, I got kids, nieces and nephews, and I got friends, and I just don't approve and I don't accept this here recreational marijuana. It's not good at all, not good. I'm offended about the poster that they have up there, church on fire. What in the world is that? Blasphemy. I don't agree with this here, and I'm praying that you do not accept this. If you do, you're gonna be sorry. Community gonna be sorry, and the family's gonna be sorry. So this is not good at all. This is my standing, and I will continue to stand against this here. Nope. Why you want them to be rich, line their pockets with our people, our children, our community? No, go somewhere else. If they already got it somewhere else, go somewhere else and buy it. I don't agree with it.
Thank you, Ms. Showers.
You're welcome.
I believe we have somebody else.
Go ahead.
Do,
Tell me what. No, tell me what.
can you hear us?
Yeah, yes, hi. Good evening. I'm commenting on the presentation that Mr. Deprez provided. Very concise, very thorough, and certainly something to consider for the city of Albion as it relates to some of the revenue that the city can generate. In the meantime, however, I am commenting here tonight because the city has an ordinance for a grow and process adult use facilities. And I just wanted to put out some comment as it relates to discussions of potentially allowing for adult use retail within the city, and that it doesn't delay the release of the application for those that are waiting for the ability to transition into the adult use market and to start competing in that segment of the market. There are cities that have taken their time in evolving or allowing for the industry to convert, and it has created some issues. The city of Warren is undergoing some, the city of Detroit has felt them. So I'm just hoping that the application release for grow process won't be delayed by the conversations for considering to allow for retail within the city. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I should have asked your name and your address.
Oh, yep, sorry. I'm Jen Zielinski and I'm with Hydra Real Estate.
And where are you from, Jen?
Pardon me?
Where are you from?
Sylvan Lake, Oakland County. Do you need the specific address?
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Chief, do we have anybody else? Okay. Hello, if you can state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Anthony Miller, 405 Street. I live here in town. For the past 5 years, I've never participated in a meeting, so I appreciate the opportunity to come on and discuss this presentation. I noticed that a lot of the conversation from the council, particularly from Member Williams, was focused on the cash associated with this. That was kind of interesting to hear that perspective, that the only thing that we are interested in this is how much cash flow the city can create and intake. I do appreciate the comments from the other member about seeing the other side of it. Definitely, there are negatives that we should really investigate to understand. And I do share the same concerns, how this can negatively impact our city. One of the comments from the presentation was that sales leakage. Of course, there will still be sales leakage because if I wanted to pick up recreational marijuana, I could do that in Jackson and shop at 4 more stores that we don't have. I could eat at several places that we don't have in town. So to say that that would be an argument for the city, I don't necessarily agree with, because there are so many options that we don't have that we should be developing first, such as a lower price option for food and other restaurants. Thank you for your time. I do hope that you do not pass recreational marijuana. Thank you.
Anthony, can you state your address? You still there?
Yeah, 405 Cedar Street, and that's here in town.
Thank you, Anthony. And Chief Kip, are we? One more, okay. Good evening. If you could state your name and address, please. Are you able to hear us? Pastor Amos, can you hear us?
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, very good, very good. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. I just wanted to come on and voice my concerns about this recreational marijuana. I'm definitely not in agreement with it. And then I hear about the money. And my thought is that our population is somewhere around 8,000 people. And what I heard was that a small community, maybe $28,000 in a year. We're talking about a couple $1,000s a month, maybe $2,350 a month. Is $2,350 a month to the city of Albion worth the damage that this situation could cause? As a matter of fact, could it possibly cost us more than what the city would be taking in financially? My thought is that it seemed like we could put our efforts to better use to bring in finances and taxes to the city with different types of vendors than the recreational marijuana vendors. So I'm just kind of like opposed to it, and I hope we would consider all of the possible issues and costs that we could have, and be realistic with the dollars, because at 28,000, my God, a year, it's just not. That's not a whole bunch when it comes to the budget of a city. So just praying that we can reconsider that possibility and look at something else that could bring us finances in. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us, Pastor Amos. So, okay, we're good. Okay. Sorry, okay. Do we have a motion to approve the council meetings for March 1st?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
The consent calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Motion to approve the consent calendar was moved by Councilman Williamson. City Clerk Domingo, can I get a roll call on that?
Councilmember Reed. Yes. Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So do I need a motion to approve the minutes from March 1st? No.
All of that was approved, everything that was listed on the calendar.
So we have council minutes, the last meeting. We have an invoice from Diligent Corporation. Do I have any?
We just moved an improvement, so we're done with them. Because no one should come off the table for discussion.
Okay, so we're,
Items for individual discussion.
all right, so we do have in front of us the application for Tom Pitt to be approved for the Albion Building Authority. Do I have a motion to approve his application?
So moved.
City Clerk Domingo, can I get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Reed. Yes. Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So we have a second reading for the ordinance to amend chapter 100, article 7, for the medical use of marijuana. Can we take a vote on this, correct?
Move to approve the second reading.
Do I have, is that a second?
Yes.
All right. City Clerk Domingo. Oh, I'm sorry, colleagues.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just briefly, as the council recalls, this ordinance is modeled it's almost identical to the ordinance adopted by Byron Township in Kent County. What the ordinance does in a nutshell is, the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act was adopted several years ago. The intent behind it was to commercialize medical marijuana facilities and basically prevent the individual home grows from becoming commercialized. And what you've seen in the past is kind of some savvy home growers kind of banding together into commercial facilities in an attempt to commercialize what should not be commercialized. So the ordinance limits home grows to specifically to residential districts as a home occupation. It has several other requirements. There can't be sales on the premises. There can't be patients that are registered patients of the caregiver who resides there, smoking at the property. They have to, there's a permit process where you need to obtain a permit to do this, just like you would with any other home occupation, and so on and so forth. But as I said, the big push behind this was to prevent what's supposed to be a home occupation from becoming commercialized. And so I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have, but I would just add, like I said, this is almost identical to the Byron Township ordinance. That particular ordinance was litigated up to the Michigan Supreme Court, and they unanimously upheld the ordinance. So this, we tried to keep it as close to that ordinance as possible because we knew that that language had already been tested in a judicial sense, and so it would be very unlikely for us to be challenged on it.
Any questions for Colin on this? Councilwoman.
Okay, Colin, so what if a person was to do, like if they're doing the home grows and they start to sell it to other people, not just for the people that they're supposed to be supporting? What happens then?
That is so under the Medical Marijuana Act, the 2008 law, they can only transfer marijuana to patients that they have a patient caregiver relationship to. If they're doing something outside that, that would be a violation of the act and a violation of the Michigan Health Code, depending on the amount that they're transferring. It could be either be a civil infraction or a misdemeanor, depending upon the weight.
Councilwoman Jackson.
So, how would that fall under H?
H refers to the delivery by the caregiver, so only the caregiver that has the actual caregiver-patient relationship can deliver the marijuana. They can't have a third party deliver on the caregiver's behalf.
Any other questions for Philip?
No.
Awesome. See if that's coming up.
Councilmember Jackson. Approve. Yes. Lawler,
Yes.
Linnell,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Reed. Yeah. And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion, well, no, this is discussion. Discussion.
You can move it and then I'll close the discussion.
Oh, okay. Motion to approve the engineering services with Whiteman and Associates.
So.
I think we missed one.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did I jump in there? I'm so sorry.
What a night.
I did not have a tap on it. I apologize. Motion to approve the city manager contract.
So moved.
Second.
Yes, Alan.
So just to give council the highlights, I will say both the committee and the city manager were tough negotiators. But happily, they found middle ground and came to both, the committee is recommending the following to the council for approval. So just to give you the highlights, the annual salary of the manager starts for the first 12 months will be $102,000. For the 13 to 24 months will be $104,550. So it's a 2.5% increase. For the third year, months 24 to 36. And actually, I'm sorry, that should actually be months 25 to 36. Will be another 2.5% increase to $107,162.75. The city manager is going to have a one-time signing bonus that's broken into of $5,000. It's broken into two payments of $2,500 paid at time of signing and at 6 months. The severance package is 3 months of the manager's salary, followed by 6 months of health and medical insurance. One thing that we did keep from the prior contract is the same termination provisions that were in I think we took that from both Ms. Rufus's contract and from Ms. Mitchell's contract. Any violation of criminal or administrative law and any moral conduct, gross negligence, or any other conduct that would constitute just cause. Don't think that's going to be a problem. The one amendment that I'm just noticing here. Did we, I'm sorry, I have to ask the question of the committee, did we stagger the severance provisions over time?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not crazy, okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what we were all looking for.
All right, so I apologize, my cardiologist said no caffeine for a while, so there we go. Okay, so anyway, the severance package is staggered. And during for the first 12 months, it's 3 months pay and then 6 months of healthcare. For the second year, it's 5 months pay, 10 months healthcare, And for the last year, months 25 to 36, it's 6 months and 12 months. Performance evaluations, just like we've done in the past, if the city manager and commencing with the 2022 performance year, assuming the city manager gets an overall evaluation of 4.0 or better, she's entitled to a $1,500 incentive payment. All those, the bonus and the incentive payments that I referenced are gross payments, so those would be subject to tax. She participates in the city's retirement plan at 7% and can also have other contributions from her own salary if she so desires. 240 hours of paid time off with 80 hours a year carrying over. She gets a $400 a month vehicle allowance. The normal technology provision, laptop and cell phone. We agreed not to make her have a flip phone. She gets an actual phone. And the rest of the provisions are pretty standard. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have. But I think we're pretty comprehensive. So the only change that we would have then is that one typo in section 6A subparagraph 3 should read for period of months 25 through 36 instead of 24 through 36. Way to overlap.
And the scale of settlements.
Is there a
Scale of settlements.
That's included.
Oh, that's okay, sorry. Not
Yeah, that's there. I couldn't remember if that was intended.
You didn't say that. We got it.
Do you have any questions for Colin on the contract?
What did you say had to be corrected?
On page, it's section 6, salary. Subparagraph A, subsection 3, says for the period of months 24 through 36, it should read 25 through 36.
Councilman Muller?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. A question came to me, it's not my question, all right, don't shoot the messenger. But, about the residency, can we go into that a little bit more? Because, the question was previously we had city managers live within the city and their concern is of the outer boundaries of the city. So can you explain that to the public? It is not my question.
Sure. I think in the past, city managers have voluntarily relocated into the city. There is a Court of Appeals case, and you have to forgive me, I don't know it off the top of my head, that specifically says that we can't require them to live. We can't require residency specifically in the city. We can only do up to the 20 miles, within 20 miles of the city. That's why it's set up that particular way, and we've had that in all of our previous contracts as well.
I would share who I have happened to purchase my first home last year, so I do own a home here in the community.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. This is going to be my first time conducting a performance review. So when I was reading that element of the contract, I just wanted to make sure, as a whole, I understand, the role in doing that. My understanding is that in the previous 2 city managers, we didn't even really get to that point, maybe. And I know that with Dr. Mitchell, it was a point of controversy. So I just want to make sure. I don't know if that's a discussion at another point, but I just wanted to make sure I understand what I'm responsible for in my role in conducting that in the future.
Well, I mean, I can tell you just as a general sense, whether it's a manager's contract or my contract, generally the way that plays out is the clerk will generally send to the council members performance evaluations, have various categories that you rate the manager on, usually on a scale of either 0 to 5, 5 being the high end, and put any other comments or thoughts, whether it's in the positive or the negative on there. Those are typically then sent to the mayor. The mayor is generally charged with coming up with a composite score of all of the evaluations from the various council members. And then those are sent to the manager ahead of her review so that she can review the comments, see the composite score, and then Generally, a review, unless the manager says otherwise or requests otherwise, generally the review is held in closed session. And there's a discussion between council and the manager. However, if the manager does not request a closed session, it can hypothetically be an open session. And then from that, that's usually the jumping off point for any modifications to the contract or things like that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Tom on the contract?
So just to point out to council now, if you approve this tonight, as of tonight, you'll have to start referring to it as city manager Snyder, not interim city manager Snyder.
I don't have a question, I do have a comment. So one of the things I enjoyed about this process, working through the contract process with Mayor Snyder and Council Member Jackson, was that multiple times throughout this process, there were lots of like little nitpicky things that we all decided we didn't like or we did like, or big things that we had to work through. And what I want to say is I think that this council's on track to do some really great things together. There was a lot of collegiality in that room. You know, I think amongst the three of us, none of us got everything exactly the way we wanted it in the contract, which at the end of the day, in this country, that's a great thing if we can all walk out. And I think I'm really proud of that work, that committee, and I think that's going to reverberate throughout council. I also want to say this is a big victory for our community tonight to finally have seated a permanent city manager and be really proud of our homegrown leaders who have done a really good job, who have immaculate resumes, and we're already doing really good things here in Albion. And so I think after we take this vote, hopefully we're in a big way say, yes, this is the right decision. We congratulate Haley and really talk to the community about how good this is. So again, thank you to Mayor Snyder. Thank you to Councilmember Jackson for making this process as lively as it was. It's good to go through. It's wonderful. And I'm excited about the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Jane. All right, City Clerk Domingo.
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right. We're gonna apologize for jumping in. Didn't mean to. All right, so a motion to discuss our service with Whiteman and Associates. City Manager Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I will ask Mickey Bedner, our city engineer, to step out. At the last council meeting, I brought to council's attention that our current contract with Whiteman and Associates is set to expire at the end of this month. So I've asked Mickey Bedner, who is the head engineer, who's been working with us for many years, to come and present, just to give a highlight of some of the projects that they have assisted the city with to and answer any questions that you all may have. So please,
Yeah. If you want to raise that mic, I don't know, our last presenter, how audible that was there.
How's that? All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I see some familiar faces and some new ones, so it's been a little while since I've been in front of the council, but so as Haley introduced, my name is Mickey Bittner. I'm an engineer with Whiteman Associates. I have served the city here since 2004. When the previous engineer transitioned to a different position. So I worked with a lot of staff over the years, and that's been a lot of fun for me, I could say. I provided Haley, I went through and just put together a quick summary. Before I do that, a little background for those that don't know. So our company is about 75 years old. We exist to serve people in the communities that they live in. We do have a multidisciplinary team, very comprehensive services. We have engineering, surveying, architecture, GIS, environmental, material testing. So that's a little bit about what we do. We do have, so as I started to get into here on the projects, I put together a list of projects just that we've been involved with. There's other engineering firms that have done some work for the city as well, but just the last 10 years, and I kept this tally going for some of the fast transitions in leadership of the city between public works and city managers to share some things when people ask for it. And I was quite pleased to see it. You see this, the list of construction is about a little over $11 million, but the city was successful in $5.2 million of grants, more than that. So I think that's great use of leveraging the local resources to enhance the community. And that's one of the things we really do try to focus on as a firm and myself, is trying to find grant opportunities and how we can leverage those, stretch those out, because everybody knows that local resources are really limited. And so we really try to find how can we best do that and leverage all of our resources from different angles, and looking at our enterprise funds, transportation, and combining those with grants to stretch the dollar as far as we can. You know, another thing, I guess this just came up kind of recently, but in my tenure with the city, about 17 years, continuity has become kind of a theme almost, as there's been changes in the city manager's office and changes, public services director. And I did get permission from the director of public services to share a quick story, but I was working with the EDC on helping them apply for a grant to develop some property that they own along Michigan Avenue east of the city. And one of the components is looking at utility availability out there for water and sewer. And I just was making the director aware of that, so they were looking at this right now to help them out. And he asked me, he said, well, I live pretty close to there. So where do you live? And he showed me where he lives and said, how far do you think I have to go to get sewer? I said, well, there's a lead in your front yard. And he said, you gotta be kidding me. He said, nobody else knew that. And I said, yeah, we put that in there about 2009 or 10. So the next day I emailed them plans that showed them where that service was, but that was kind of a recent example of some of the knowledge, and I hadn't even realized it. That was some of the change in people, that some of that knowledge had been passed along. So I think that's something that I certainly enjoyed working with the staff on. I think it's something else that, you know, we've really worked on having a strategic approach, and it ties back into the grant funding, or how we can leverage dollars the best. And there's a lot of different ways you can combine a street project with a water or sewer project. And sometimes it seems really straightforward, but other times there's ways to stretch the local dollars more than what might seem apparent at face value. So that's a little bit, I guess, about us and a little bit of my history here. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Management, do you have anything to add to what Nikki shared with us?
I don't, just other than that, it's always a pleasure to work with Wyman and all of their team. As we have a long history here in our community. I know I can call with an answer and they can provide me with details on other projects that kind of relate to the question that I have, to give me a broader overview. So I would hate to see that move away if council decides not to renew the current agreement that we have in place. And I would just add city's recommendations that we renew the services that we have with Wyman.
So do we have any questions from council members? For Mickey while he is here with us. We're good. All right.
One more thing to add, I do see later on the agenda there, coming up here pretty quick, there are 3 construction contracts on here for award, and that we help the city with, and I'd be happy to answer questions. If it's okay, I'll hang on over here until, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Yes, thank you. All right, so I have a motion. Do you need anything with us?
It was discussion approval. So with that, because the current contract is set to expire at the end of this month, we need to kind of the direction that council would like to see, whether it is renewed with Wyman and Associates, or we would look to put out an RFP to see.
So we got that. So, all right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Contract, all right. So we got a motion and approved by Councilman Muller? Yes. Okay. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right. Motion to approve a resolution to award sidewalk improvement.
So moved.
Excavation. Do I have a second?
Support. Second.
All right, City Manager Slater?
Yes, thank you. So council, as, just to highlight, it was previously approved by council to replace, repair, and install sidewalk ramps to make them all ADA compliant throughout the city. We have our appointment to design the project and put that out for bid. We did receive several bids for this project, with Epic Excavating Inc. Being the lowest bidder at $440,835. A copy of the bid tabulation was included. And we are recommending to award that project to Epic Excavating.
Any questions for City Manager Slater? All right, City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williamson.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Lanier.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right, motion to approve resolution to award the street improvement project on First, Second, Third, Wild and Hartwell Streets to Bailey Excavating. City Manager Slater?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, yes, thank you, Mayor. So yes, council, we approved to redo First, Second, Third, Wild and Hartwell Streets. We went with Whiteman to design this project, and we have put that out for bid. Received several bids for that, with the lowest bid coming in from Bailey Excavating at $1.2 million. I just want to remind council that the city has received a grant to assist with some of part of that funding, and I believe it's $235,000 from MDOT. So city administration is just recommending that we award this project to Bailey Excavating.
Awesome. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Lanier.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Bless you. Sorry. Motion to approve the M99 reconfiguration. City Manager Smith. Oh, sorry, motion to approve.
So moved.
Support. City Manager Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So MDOT recently announced that they are looking to reconfigure M99 or Michigan Avenue, the portion between Ione Street and Mingo Street. As you're aware, it is currently, it changes between 4 lanes down to 2 lanes, and it is very confusing, not the best marking and signage throughout that area. So they are looking at doing some new street markings to change it down to a 12-foot lane going in each direction with a 12-foot center and left lane turn. Hopefully this will eliminate some of the high speed that we have experienced. I know we had the tragic incident where a college professor was hit trying to cross Michigan Ave. It will remove the city the parking that we have along that streetway. So they have released a video on YouTube where you can have an overview of the proposed project, and they're asking for the public to submit comments. They're accepting comments through March 22nd. A link to the YouTube video can be found on the city's website, as well as a link to the comment card. Or you can email your comments directly to an individual with MDOT. His contact information is listed on the website. So we are just asking council to approve this resolution in support of the reconfiguration of this of Michigan Avenue. As we are aware, we have received numerous complaints of high speed, and just it will improve the safety within that area.
Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Lanier.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder and City Manager Snyder. I am glad to see this. I know firsthand there's excessive speeding happening there. That was my neighbor who was hit. I really appreciate MDOT creating that video to demonstrate how it will improve safety, and also providing the fact that 33 accidents have happened, I think, in just a 5-year period in this exact span. So it is very important. I do have a question, and I don't really know the best place to direct this, so that's why I'm bringing it up here. For the businesses within that span whose customers rely on parking, is there going to be some alternative afforded for them?
Right now, I believe that will be a conversation we would need to have with MDOT. That is a state-controlled roadway within our community, so that is subject up to MDOT. But this is why they are seeking the public comment for concerns and comments of that nature. So if the businesses within this area could provide feedback to NDOT, that would be greatly appreciated. And if they do decide to move forward with this project, I'm sure we will have further discussions with them on what parking will look like along that roadway.
Okay, thank you. And just to iterate, it's email is the best form of.
There's
submitting.
email or there is a link on the website so you can submit an online comment card. So please direct your constituents to the city's website. It's right there on that front main page, and you just need to click the link. And you can watch the video as well as submit your comment that way.
Okay. If there was a person who didn't have access to the internet, how would they go about submitting?
They can always stop down here. We can pull the video up so that they can watch that, and then we will be happy to submit their comment on their behalf via email.
Thank you.
Any other questions? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Reed, and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve the resolution to award the utilities extension project to BALKEMA Excavating.
So.
Support.
City Administrator?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the council is aware the city received a grant back, I believe it's 2017, and there was overages from that grant. And they were set aside to go towards utility extension out towards the equestrian center. It was part of a kind of a long-term, larger project. Obviously, when we designed the project, costs were definitely different at that time than when we put the project out for bid this year. And we opened those bids, prices drastically increased over the past few years. We were looking to collaborate with an entity within the community to kind of complete that project and not only expand a sewer across Haven Road, but then kind of get a water extension out for the equestrian center. It does not look like that is possible. So we are looking, we do have enough to cover at least the utilities extension across Haven Road, which will be critical. That road is slated to be redone, I believe it is 2023. So it makes sense to obviously repair the infrastructure below the road, and then instead of redoing the road, and then a few years later, we have to dig up a newly completed road. So we do have funds available to at least get the sewage extension done across Haven Road, and we are recommending that we award this contract to BALKEMA Excavating, so that we can kind of close out this grant, because it has been a long-standing project. Have any further questions?
Yeah, Vicky, you have comment?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add one thing if I could. So the award would be incorporating contract modification number 1. So we opened bids, as Haley mentioned, and then the scope was reduced to fit the city's budget for the grant dollars. So we eliminated the water main from the contract. So just to point out, the bid tabulation that you probably have in the packet does show that the low bidder was $313,913.75, but the award should be to BALKEMA, including contract modification number 1 for a revised amount of $190,193.08. It's no fun getting old.
So at what point in Haven Road will this be done at?
It's on South Hannah, so there's sewer partway on Hannah. It's about a couple hundred feet from Haven, so it's gonna be extending that across to get it to the south side of Haven. So that when Haven is done in 23, the underground infrastructure is good, the sewer is good across there, so.
Okay. Any other questions for Mickey or City Manager Snyder? All right, City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Reed, Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right, do we have a motion to approve the 2021 council goals set from our study session from January 19th. Support. Okay, so unfortunately, I was not able to attend that meeting, but we all have the notes from each council person that was present. In reviewing these, I think some we've already been able to accomplish. That is only March. I think it's wonderful. But the rest are valid points that I would wholeheartedly support. Do we have any comments from the council members that have goals that are listed on the document? Yeah, I mean, did we need any clarification? Do we want to make any comments? How is it? Yeah.
Thank you. I don't want to start adding things to this tonight. I want to maybe make a suggestion to my colleagues on council. So this isn't necessarily a comprehensive list of goals that we want to complete. It's really a list of my goals and Councilmember Jackson's goals and Councilmember Lou's goals, and Mayor Snyder, you're not really reflected in here as much either. And so I'm wondering if council would be interested in, I think there's probably a few of us, I'm not sure that person's me, but I know there are a few of us who might be interested in diving into this a little bit more. But maybe bringing back to council at the next meeting, kind of like, here are the 7 overriding goals or 10 goals for the next 2 years that we'd like to complete. And that way it's not kind of lined out as my goals and Councilmember Jackson's goals, but it's here's what we're all going to do. We can just take these and synthesize it and put it together in an easier reform. And then annually we can look at that and see where are we at with each of these goals as a council. Because this is how we're going to rate ourselves. And it's also what's going to drive what we push on to City Manager Snyder going forward. So it's not that I want to put this off any longer, because I know we really want to have these goals in front of us. But I think in its current form, it just isn't going to help us grade ourselves or to evaluate or to provide guidance to City Manager Snyder. I'm just going to say it all right, City Manager Snyder. So I'm respectfully requesting, if there are a couple of council members, and if I have to be, I will, but I don't want to hog the committee spots. But if there are a couple of committee members in conjunction with Mayor Snyder, I know has plenty of time. You have 30 extra hours in the day, right? Yeah. Could maybe get together between now and the next council meeting and bring back kind of a nice polished, here's what we want to do, here's, and then we can kind of line up how we want to grade ourselves and do that. I want to hear everyone's thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, for me, when I read through this, it wasn't that this is, Councilman Williamson's goal and this is Councilwoman Williams' goal. These are our goals. So I feel like we are all going to be able to put input on everything that's listed here. That's how I interpreted it. That's kind of like, as I'm reading through this, I'm thinking to myself, how can I help with this? How can I help with this? How can I help push this? That type of thing. And so I don't know if you were trying to reduce this, if you were trying to.
So these lists are sorry.
No, go ahead, yeah.
That was a question I'd like to answer if possible. I mean, I'm not trying to reduce. I mean, I'd love to have a 30-page list of goals for the next year. And I think with the folks we have up here right now, we probably could do that. What I wanted to do is kind of like synthesize it down to the main overarching goals, because some of these are kind of on top of each other. And I really don't know like what measures of success are here. Like, how do we know we're successful in doing what we say we're gonna do? Some of these, like, town hall meetings. Well, what kind of town hall meetings do we want to have? What do we want them to focus on? Clearly, like tonight, recreational marijuana is a hot topic in the city. So clearly, we probably want to talk about that with our constituents. And I just don't know. Again, not saying this isn't a great list, because I mean, I would run around town and give this list to anybody and say this is what we're trying to do, but trying to synthesize it down and give it a purpose for how we want to conduct business in the next 2 years. Part of the reason I think city council over many years, and all city councils to some degree become a little dysfunctional since they don't know what they're going towards or how they're going to get there. And this is great, and I love it. And I thought, well, maybe we can put a little more meat to it and synthesize it down to something easier. But if I'm in the out, you're not good at compromise.
No. So like, are you thinking maybe like a subcommittee?
Yeah, 3 members. You sit down and take this list and make it something for us. That we can actually put on the website. Say this is what we're focused on. And we go around and say this is what it is.
Councilwoman Lawler?
Are we able to take the council goals and put like a priority of what we would like to see with all these together and just figure out one together, do a study session.
Yeah, well, and maybe that's what the subcommittee can do, like create some type of documentation, maybe prioritize, and then have a study session where we can move forward and agree on. Is that something that you'd be amenable to?
From previous times, we just all did council goals together, so I may be out of.
I mean, this is not something that's gonna get voted on by the subcommittee. But maybe just kind of like streamline as he was trying to say. Yes, Councilman Irene.
I think some of these things we have to use, but I think the main thing that we need to do is kind of find out from the city, what do they do? And I know the first thing is streets. That, you know, that,
Yeah.
you can can everything else as long as you did something about the streets. But I'm hearing more and more people that are not happy with things. As, you know, that things that they see that they want to get done. And that might not be all that's on our list right now. I've had people complaining to me about the streets, one still about the trash around the city, another one about people parking across the sidewalk and in their front yards and stuff like that. And, you know, it's, you need to find out what your citizens want. And then we make that our priority as to getting it done so that, you know.
But I think, I guess for the movement of kind of moving towards goals is that's why we had that study session in January to put them kind of in place so that we could start moving toward them. I mean, definitely, yes, you're correct. We do need to be able to still address our citizens' concerns. But in regards to kind of moving forward, I think these are the ones that we want to focus on, but maybe streamline and condense, so like we said, we're not overlapping. Like if Councilwoman Lawler and, you know, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson have something similar, it can be more succinct in regards to.
I like to be on that committee.
Okay, Councilwoman Lennon.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I was on the same page. I was seeing us working together on this. Because I also am hearing a lot of things and just want to be able to speak to them in the proactive sense. So I think that's why this was introduced originally. We, I think, have our ear to residents and recognize things are being brought up. So just being aware, like sharing that awareness back. And then, you know, continuing to build on that with dialogue and in that two-way communication would be excellent. I'm trying to synthesize right now because I think that these are all great ideas that you're sharing. And this is really important to me. I think personally, communications as a subcommittee is very important. You know, just getting the information that we have, whether it's with regard to changes in recreation, economic development, the city hall staff, the information that we are generating at council meetings isn't necessarily reaching people because it's not easy to go and log in and listen and, you know, find all the specific things. So just sharing what's happening here in a coordinated way. So it's not just me sharing in my precinct, but we can work together. I think would just be beneficial and streamline our work. But I also hear beautification as like a key element for a subcommittee as well that I've heard both of you in our original discussion and a lot of residents who would be willing to volunteer just as a way to jumpstart, especially with this nice weather. So I think we could walk away today with some clear, consolidated kind of living goals that are flexible, and then just continue to build on that in a way that's transparent. I also, when originally putting this on, I think it was in the study session packet that came out, consolidated the previous council goals, the comprehensive plan goals, and just a long range. And so I hear what we're saying here tonight, which is just like this is far too much to really digest either for us or for community members, but I think it helps to see it all in one document, that we do have it on our radar, and, just honestly, just supporting the city through this time of immense transition is, I think, kind of where we're at, but it's important to demonstrate that we're aware as well.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Yes, I agree with everything that all of you have said. And I heard the word of a subcommittee, but I do really like the idea of us all coming back together in the study session. And doing as Shane is saying, because I see that picture, because usually that picture is like the first 10 things and then we chop it down, because a lot of the items that are in here that I do see, they are kind of conflicting. They're like, mine is the same as yours, you might say it in a different way. But in the same token, we are going to be doing or putting down what our people would like to see within our precinct. So I think we should just come back together and put all of that down and then sit down and prioritize what we want to do together, because I do believe that's something that the council has not done before. They might have put it down on a piece of paper, but yet come together as all of us and go at this together. So there's something being done in each precinct, and they can really see that we are definitely working for the people and not just for one precinct.
Yes, Councilman Larson.
So my idea about having kind of a subcommittee of council to kind of take these and synthesize and get it into something to digest isn't to try to take it out of the public sphere or to not be transparent. Tonight what we have in front of us is a list of bullet points that isn't quite organized. It's just, this is what it said, this is what I said, this is what you said. Part of the reason things don't get done on city council is that we don't have any guiding principles to like, here's what our next product is, right? Like, I hear communication all the time too. Roads, jobs, there's probably like 5 or 6 that we hear all the time. And it's, what of those can I actually get done? And I'm gonna focus on over the next 2 years, so that when we're talking to our constituents, we say, well, council made this a priority for the community because this is what we heard from you, because we all ran for office and we all listened. Hopefully we all listen, I try. Sometimes not so good, I found that out early this week, but we all listen to our constituents and they have their ideas of what we need to do. It's really hard to work in a group of 7 to get something like this down to something that's one, easy to read, and makes a lot of sense, and can make sense to the public as we move forward. And I'll give a very recent example. The last 2 years on council, all I heard was roads. Roads. Our roads are junk, they're falling apart, they're bad. The truth is, we were able to get a grant for the roads to be done in precinct 3, Hartwell area. But that's literally the extent of the accomplishments, and that wasn't even council's accomplishments, that was the city administration. There's not a lot of things we can do, on our own as a council on roads, but there's a heck of a lot we can do on communication, on diving into our precincts and finding out what are the small things we know we can win, or what are the things we want to do in partnership with the college, et cetera. I think that if we were to vote on this tonight, this is just kind of another 2 years of, well, if this comes up, we'll take it up. You know what I mean? I think the reason to put it into a small group and bring back something a little bit more put together means working with something that's already pretty firm, and then obviously the public comments on it. We have a study session, we go over it, we say what we like, what we don't like, we change it, and then we bring it to a council meeting and vote on it. And then going forward, when we start to work on all of our individual issues, we say, well, how does this fit into our goals going forward? We said these are our goals, so Councilmember Williamson, why are you trying to paint the sidewalks in precinct 6 purple? That's not our plan. So that's really the spirit of my suggestion. I think if we try to hash all these out tonight and put them in, we're gonna be here all night. No, we will if we try to accomplish this all tonight.
So are we all then, I guess, agreeable to having another study session, so what can we say? To come together again, maybe we look at this list, try to figure out, like, if Mayor Pro Tem Jackson's goals or some of them are in alignment with Councilman Lanu's, we kind of make note of that, and then when we come together, maybe we can figure out a way to streamline it, so it's not just 7 or 6 different plans, it's one plan. Are we good? Yes, Councilman Muller.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Is it possible If we do vote on another study session, that we might can choose 3 major things and a piece and bring them together, because and when we did council goals, when Dr. Mitchell was here, we all came to the table and we did have council goals. So yeah, it's a little hard when you got 7 people, but it's worth it because we all get to say, yeah, yes. But it's how we should work together. We gotta learn each other. So to hash it out, it's okay.
Councilwoman, Neal, you can say something?
Yes, I think that, because, there's at the same time a need to move forward as expeditiously or as quickly as possible. And then at the same time, we want to be thorough and comprehensive and take our time. So I just want to respect that. At the same time, I would be happy. I know I've spoken to everybody about, things, but I think that bringing it together, maybe with like, I know Councilmember Reed volunteered, I speak with Mayor Pro Tem Jackson about these things, maybe like having, whether it's 3 to 5 kind of buckets, because each thing that we want to do has many layers to it. So coming in with like, this is what we see, and then breaking it down into, I hear from Councilmember Williamson, just the need to be able to measure and organize and, basically make it happen, right? Like, how are we gonna break this all down? So I think the more that we can streamline and organize it for our next study session, then we don't have to keep recreating. And that was why I mentioned the comprehensive plan, because there are 10 goals on there, which are all included here. And so the work has been done, and we're kind of just returning and updating and, of course, incorporating the residents in this process, which coincides very well with the comprehensive plan being updated this year as well.
Okay, so.
I was just saying, the consensus is, I think we would like to do another study session, so I'd be happy to send out a few dates tomorrow to all the council to get your feedback on when we can have this study session, as well as I will send out the condensed list that Councilmember Lanu provided that hits the goals that were identified in the most recent comprehensive plan, as well as previous city council goals. So I will send that out to all the council tomorrow, and hopefully we can get something scheduled here very soon.
Awesome. So are we good with that, folks?
Just point of information, did we make a, did we move, but this, did we move to approve this? Because we'll need to make a motion to table it if we did.
So, we can definitely take a vote or to approve this, but if we don't want to approve, then we want to table.
I moved to table this until after our study session and to get further direction from both
Yes.
the council and the community.
So you got a second from Mayor Brandon? Second. All right. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right, discussion or approve recording of public meetings. Councilman Lawler?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. So there was a concern about like not being able to attend some of the meetings like early in the morning or later in the day when people are working. So it was asked to me to ask the council if we could suggest that all of our entities record and upload so that everyone can see them if they happen to miss some meetings.
So I guess we would have to check with all of the directors or chairs on these, because I think in order to upload, you have to have a YouTube channel.
So is it
Then you can record Zoom meetings, but in order to upload for public viewing, I think you have to have a YouTube channel. Is that correct, or?
Correct, and we can record all of our Zoom meetings for our boards and commissions and upload them to our city YouTube account. It gets to, we don't control the EDC meetings. They run and schedule the director and her staff run and oversee their meetings. So that would be, they would need to provide that recording to us. But we, the city, we can provide all of our boards and commission meetings. We can upload that to our YouTube account. I don't see that being a problem, but I would have to reach out to Mr. Press for the EDC.
Okay, thank you.
And I knew that was one of your biggest concerns with the EDC meetings, correct? So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's not something that we can mandate them to do, so.
We
can ask.
Can we just
Yeah.
ask them?
Yeah, exactly. And I will share, Clerk did share with me that Amy, Mr. Press did provide us with all of their meeting minutes, so we have added those to the city's website, so people can refer back to them as well, but I will reach out to her.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So we're on to, was there any questions on that? Yeah. Move on? No. Future agenda items? Yes, Councilwoman
I
Lee?
had to put Holland Park on there and the monies that they left over from the park manage.
Councilwoman Lee?
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I have spoken with Attorney Harkness about being able to review this massive document we call our city charter and code of ordinances. He agreed to help and thinks that he can walk us through the most pertinent elements within an hour. So I was going to request that we could have a study session before our next council meeting. For those members who want to have kind of a tutorial of our city charter and ordinances.
Oh, that's ambitious. An hour?
I said for the charter, we're new through an ordinances too, so, but, you know, I mean, in all reality, I mean, there's 19 different chapters to our charter, probably 10 of which are obsolete. And realistically, for council purposes, there's maybe 5 or 6 that are really germane on a regular basis. So I think to walk the council through those 5 or 6 chapters, I can probably put together a fairly simple PowerPoint for our next meeting in looks like April 5th would be our next meeting. So I
So
think
maybe
that.
like do an hour before?
Yeah, I mean, if the council wanted to schedule it at 6, I'm happy to walk the council through those and probably still have a little bit of time left for some questions. I will be quick in my presentation to allow for more time for questions, but I think it would probably be good, particularly for the new members of council, to have a working familiarity. And it never hurts to have that review for the seasoned members of council.
I was just going to say, I talked to Mayor City Manager Snyder about that. All of us need one of those. Plus the book that they were talking about, the government and stuff, and yeah. Because, I mean, people call you and they ask you questions and you really don't have real good answers because you don't have material. And you say, well, go online, but you go online and if you run the stuff off, that's a paycheck and a half. You know, so, and the city should be able to provide that so that the people who are doing the work for them can give the people who need the information. And as you get off, then pass your book back in and then go to the next person.
John writing. All right, study session of the charter. Any other agenda items? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Yes, Erie Street, many complaints about individuals driving very fast up and down that street.
So the speed limit, the speed limit. Just like her. Any other agenda items?
Are we gonna have a street cleaning this, another street cleaning this year?
Yes,
Okay.
They wouldn't get one, so I thought I
It
saw
just,
one
yeah,
out.
just went out back in the fall, right before, right before all winter months, but yes, it will be back out spring and summer months.
Can we kind of get a schedule of how that's going to run and what streets it's going to be on at certain times so that people can have their cars moved and stuff like that and they can really get clean?
Any other items? All right, Chief Kip, do we have anybody on that would like to speak in public? Nope. Thanks, Jesse. All right, city manager report.
Hey, Mayor, so a copy of my report was included in the packet, so I just want to reiterate the Michigan Avenue and 99 configuration and just remind our residents to please go on to our website to watch the YouTube video, as well as submit your comment to NDOT regarding that proposed project. The COVID-19 vaccine needs assessment, as I did mention to council a few weeks ago that Albion College professor, Dr. Barbara Keys and her team, they're working with NAACP to conduct a survey on the needs regarding the COVID vaccine in our residents of our community. They have received the approval from the college IRB board to release that survey. We actually received the hard copies this morning, so we do have some available. People want to stop in to take that survey, as well as the link can be found on the city's website. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete the survey, but we really do encourage all of our residents to please take the time to complete the survey and provide the information so that they can conduct a proper study. The American Rescue Act. With the recent passing of the federal COVID relief bill, the bill provides $350 billion in direct aid to state and local government, which is great news here. So the city of Albion is expected to receive $829,600. So city administration, we are anxiously and actively watching for the Department of Treasury to release the guidelines on those funds, because I'm sure they will have some regulations and stipulations on what they can be used for. But still, it is very exciting news to see such a large amount coming. But it's still a lot of unknowns as we continue to navigate through the ongoing pandemic. City staff retirements. So after dedicating over 20 years of service, Jay Loomis recently retired on Friday, March 12th. He was our water foreman. We just want to thank Jay for his many years of dedication and service to the city. And just looking back, I realized we had quite a few retirements that have happened last year. Obviously, with dealing with the pandemic and just some transition here at the city, I just wanted to take the time to kind of highlight and acknowledge those employees. We have Kent Phillips with 24 years, Robert Brown with 6 years, Louise Bruget with 20 years, Rob McKinney with 20 years, Jack Williamson with 25 years, and Kelly Williamson with 23 years. So just thank you for all of the hard and long dedicated years of service that they all provide to the city. It's greatly appreciated. And then just as always, just reminding everyone that City Hall, we do continue to be open to the public Monday through Friday with limited hours from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'm sorry, one other thing. We had a great kickoff week with the Albion YMC programs last week. We had over the 6 days, there were 56 participants that came out and joined those programs, so that is exciting to hear. They have participants from Albion, Battle Creek, and Jackson, so the word is getting out, and surrounding communities are coming to Albion and taking part in these programs. So we're happy to see that. Sounds like the youngest participant was 10 years, up to the our wisest being 80 years young. So we're just happy to see that our residents are taking part. For this partnership to be successful, it is going to require all of us to do our part and participate in the program. So we're happy to see that it was good success for them to kick off in that partnership. And just to remind the Wyatts that they are looking to hire for a recreation manager in the community. They are still accepting applications and will be conducting interviews here in the near future. And with that, I will answer any questions.
Any questions for city manager? Yes.
When is the senior citizen day for YMCA?
Senior citizen?
I mean,
You did just fine last Monday at hip hop dance. But you can find the complete list of programs for the month of March. It's on our city's website, and we will be adding the April calendar as well.
Yes, Councilman.
Fridays are fitness in the future for our seniors at the moment. So you get to do chair
There you go.
exercises.
Is that
and
over
watch a
50?
movie.
Because I'm 51.
No, you're good, yep. It's at 1 o'clock every Friday.
Any other questions?
And I asked her the other day if men would come because I followed her through the, and as men were coming by, we were passing out slips. We ran off some slips. And so we were putting those out in the boxes. And there was one guy that said, "Can men come?" And he said, "Yeah, men can come."
Yes.
And that was actually a comment on the great kickoff week. I was there for several of the events, didn't participate in all of them, but I did participate in the cardio drumming. It was a lot of fun. More and more people are showing up, so it's truly exciting. I know that they're going to start looking at bringing in local instructors, so people that we know and go and exercise with. They're also going to reintroduce water aerobics, which I know is going to be huge for a lot of folks waiting to get back into the pool. So she is going to continue the programming. She is also starting on programming for the summer, the clinics, the children's camps. So there's still a lot more yet to come. So that is all very exciting. And like City Manager Snyder said, for anybody who wants to see what's coming up, because everybody has busy lives, but you can carve out a little time to get out and exercise, carve out that time to either go to Washington Garden. If we do the water aerobics, it'll be held at the Opportunity High School. So kind of just plan ahead, but then your calendar and get involved.
And just to add to that, Mayor, if I may, they are planning to do an Easter egg hunt here in our community. So they are still working out the details, but once they have, once I'm provided with that information, I will send it out to council as well as get it put on our the city website and Facebook page. But we are looking to do an Easter egg hunt here at Victory Park for all the kids to come out. So much needed after being locked down for a year.
And I think people are just very excited to be able to get back with other folks. Even though we have to wear masks, that's okay, that's a concession, but at least we can still gather and enjoy that socialization again. Yes, Mayor Jackson.
Yes, thank you for answering that question about where the water aerobics is going to be at. A lot of people are asking about that. But are they hiring more than just a recreation manager?
I'm sure they will need, but right now, I know their main focus is to get that, the manager position filled. And then, once they bring them on board, they will need to assess their needs. But I'm assuming, yes, they will need more program, people to lead the programs, things like that. But I know their main priority right now is just to get that recreation manager position filled.
Thank you so much.
Any other council member comments? Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I just wanted to report back from the Workforce Development Task Force, who met on March 5th, not May yet. So just a brief update, they recently conducted the employer survey, and the topics that they heard back most specifically about were related to employee attention, attraction, and retention, and communicating with employers about the resources that are currently available. So the next meeting is scheduled for April 30th, where they are anticipating having a matrix of workforce development resources available for employers, and the child care committee will also be presenting an update. And then the Albion Marshall Employer Roundtable is still being planned in forthcoming.
Any other comments? Very good. All right, motion to excuse our absent council member.
Support.
And that was Councilwoman Clark. I don't think she was ever able to join us. Can I get a final roll call, City Clerk, today?
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Waller.
Yes.
Lanu.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. And motion to adjourn.
Support.
Point of information, and we don't, because we're in person, we shouldn't do a roll call vote for this. This can be all those in favor. So you do it for the first time ever.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yay, and call it at 9:11.